Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you yet another single issue review, and today the issue in question is King Spawn issue number 1. So this is a very highly anticipated issue that a lot of people were looking forward to because it's a very record-breaking comic. This is the first Spawn companion title to the main series that we've had in I think about 30 years. And this is just following Al Simmons, of course the main original Spawn character. Todd McFarlane created the character Spawn, and he's been running the series since issue number 1 way back in 1992. I actually have it back here. I found this first issue of Spawn ever in one of my back bins recently, and this book passed 500,000 pre-orders alone, not counting like second printings or any extra copies that shops will order later on. Just 500,000 pre-orders, people that have it on their pull list and stamped copies, so this is selling some crazy numbers. It was a $6 issue, but the idea with all of these brand new Spawn's Universe titles that Todd McFarlane and all of the other creators are putting together to expand the Spawn universe is that we've got these first issues costing $6 because each one so far has had a bunch of different backup stories following some different characters in the Spawn's universe, but then every single other issue, starting at issue 2, will be $3. Normally, if you're not aware, the regular comic price these days is $4, and more now, Marvel and DC are putting out $5 issues that are oversized, but Spawn's universe, any Spawn title, including the main one, they're sticking with $3, and some of the best quality also. And this issue was fantastic. In this video, I'm going to be telling you all about all the details, the creators, and everything you need to know about King Spawn issue number 1, and I'm going to be getting into spoilers, so just a fair warning. If you haven't read this issue yet and you'd like to read it before you see my review on it, go ahead and do that right now, because I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in this issue. But naturally, this ongoing series is going to be by a different creative team than the main Spawn title. Todd McFarlane only has enough time to write like 1 or 2 titles, and we do have a Gunslinger Spawn series that's coming up in October, and he's going to be the ongoing writer of that, so he only has time for so many books. But the main creative team that we've got on this King Spawn ongoing series is going to be Sean Lewis on writing, who I wasn't familiar with before this, and the art is by Juan Fernandez, which I really enjoyed also. The artwork was amazing. The main story is just about 20 pages, and it's written by Sean Lewis, along with Todd McFarlane to help him kick off this first issue, you know, pass on the legacy in a certain way. And Todd McFarlane wrote all of the backup stories, and the art is of course by Javi Fernandez. But we have the issue opening up with a school teacher teaching like some sort of preschool or kindergarten class. They're in this nice classroom, and he's suddenly pulling out the Bible. He's reading them some sections of it. For whatever reason, it's kind of bizarre to be teaching that in like a public school or wherever he is. But all of a sudden, he's like looking on his phone and getting ready for something, saying that they don't have that much time. And then suddenly the entire school explodes, murdering all of the children inside of it. We find out that this man was responsible for this. He's in some way tied to this explosion. He knew that it was going to happen. It was almost some sort of suicide mission. So Al Simmons, Spawn, the main guy, and Jessica Priest, who's She-Spawn right now, are there at the funeral, seeing all of the parents who have lost their child, mourning the deaths of their children. And Al is trying to figure out what is even going on. Why would somebody blow up a school? What does this human teacher have to do with it? He doesn't have any demonic ties. He's really just a human who somehow has something going on. And Spawn is thinking that they're trying to get his attention somehow. These villains are taking it to a whole nother level, trying to get his attention by murdering kids. And pretty much the main ongoing thing that's happening in all the Spawn titles these days is, I haven't read these issues, but I guess since about like issue 300 or 301 back in 2019 or 2018, there was some sort of chasm that was opened, a rip in time and in space, and all the different Hellspawns from many different generations from hundreds of years ago have all come into the present. So that includes like medieval Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn coming into the present, as well as a bunch of other new Spawn characters that have been introduced in the recent issues of the main Spawn series. But now with so many different Hellspawn and Heaven and Hell going back to war with each other, all of these demons and all of these angels trying to get Spawn's attention, because he's been back on Earth in New York City and all of these different places that he's been fighting crime in for so long, and he's the one who opened that chasm. So everyone's trying to become the king of everything, become the king of Earth and Hell and Heaven and everything, but Spawn is at the center of it. So he's going around investigating, trying to figure out who is behind this teacher who murdered all the kids. Who was that teacher's boss? So he goes and interrogates this pair of, I think they're angels, a couple of characters that were in the real world just posing as regular people, and he comes and tries to get some information from them. He found this like special shard of some sort of ancient transcript near the graveyard. He found that in the dirt or somewhere. It didn't really explain where. He just found this like random piece of writing, but he has it nonetheless, and he asked this angel to translate it. He doesn't know what the dialect is, but the angel reads it to him, and apparently this little shard is saying something about a section of the Bible, one of the Psalms in which they're talking about people killing kids in order to get the attention of their god. So this is tying back to Spawn in a certain way that I'll get to by the end of the issue, but it's looking really interesting, and they really put a twist on what King Spawn even means. But he does get that clue, and now he's going off to investigate some more, and he figures out that the guy behind it might be Metatron, who is this very powerful human who, started as a human, but then worked his way up in the ranks, got affiliated with different people from hell and heaven, and then eventually was able to have these powers. So he's one of the most powerful beings, but he never even came from heaven or hell. He's really worked his way up, and he's pretty unique. We see him going around with these special sound powers that he can do, where he just blows up people's heads if they're annoying him. They're making it seem like he's going to be a big deal, but then immediately we just see Spawn figure out that he was murdered. His body has been all ripped apart, and somehow there's somebody behind this all. Metatron was just a stand-in to show Spawn that whoever's behind this is much more powerful than this already very powerful being. So Spawn is getting a little bit worried. This is definitely setting up an ongoing thing happening in this series where we're going to have some big story threads happening. I think this is probably going to be a really, really long story arc, but finally in these last couple pages of the main story of this issue, we see the reveal of who this team really is, or at least sort of a half reveal. So we see this cult. They're all wearing big robes. They're all chanting about Spawn, and then there's this man. I can't really make out who he is. A lot of you who read Spawn Ongoing might know who it is, or if it's a new character or what, because he's sort of revealed. You can see the shape of his body and everything. Let me know down in the comments section if you know who this is, or if you have any clue. But just I haven't been reading Spawn long enough to have any sort of guess. But they're saying that finally they've blown up this school. They're starting to make steps towards getting the king's attention, King Spawn. So this was really interesting. It gave me the chills when I read it because it was such a twist, something I really wasn't expecting, and something that you wouldn't get out of the name King Spawn in the cover here with just, Spawn on the cover. They're trying to make him the king. They think of him as the king, so they're taking those words from the Bible about, people trying to kill children to get the attention of their god, and they're doing that with Spawn. So it's unclear what their intentions are about conquering the world, or if they just somehow want Spawn to conquer the world and become the king for whatever reason. I'm sure we're going to get even more story on what this is even about, what their motives are in future issues of King Spawn. So who knows how this story will progress, but that was a really, really good first issue, sort of. But let's get into these little backup stories that we had. I think there were 4 in total, and they were all okay in my opinion. They were all written fully by Todd McFarlane, and they were just little looks into all of these different characters' lives who were first introduced in the Spawn series, checking back in with them because I guess some of these characters haven't appeared for a long time and they're being reintroduced in Spawn's universe. The first story is about this character Haunt, and it's drawn by Steven Segovia. It was pretty decent, but it was about this character's new girlfriend that he's been with for a month suddenly betraying him because she was actually working for Heaven. He's getting stabbed by these knives and stuff, and then he gets rescued by this character who has both of his eyes taken out for some reason. He has these eye patches on both of them, and he seems like some sort of angel. So that was teasing something coming up. Who knows what it's actually going to be. But then the second story that we had here was illustrated by Marcio Takara, and I thought this one was pretty cool. It had to do with the character Nightmare, who's this crazy looking, sort of almost bird-like, insane creature demon who looks like Spawn except all messed up and insane, and he's torturing these different people who used to work for him, his henchmen, but since he was banished down to hell, they've been doing other stuff, just living regular human lives when they used to be demons, and now he's come back after that chasm was opened. Now he's torturing them, so it seems like he might be a big player in the ongoing Spawn's universe. Who knows when he'll make his next appearance. And then the third story here had to do with a character called The Hero. This one was written by Philip Tan though, and I thought this was actually a really good story. I didn't really understand it that much. I don't know if this is a new character or an ongoing character. We saw this boy and his dad who's been sort of neglecting him. He hasn't been getting the attention that he deserves because his dad has been having so many business meetings, and then suddenly we see this boy come out all bloody after waiting for his dad in the meeting, and then we see this character called The Hero in some sort of, angel costume. He's murdered all of the people in the meeting that the kid's dad was in, so then the kid is all terrified. It turns out that his dad was alright because he was just going to the bathroom, but now the dad is confronting the kid, almost thinks that he's the one who murdered all the people. So that was actually a really interesting story, even though I didn't understand it that much because I'm not familiar with the character. But then the fourth story that that we had here was probably my favorite. It was the Gunslinger Spawn story. And we just see what Gunslinger's whole motive is and how it leads into his ongoing series, which is starting in October. I definitely recommend reading this issue just for the Gunslinger Spawn story if you're going to be getting the Gunslinger Spawn series, because it just tells exactly what Gunslinger Spawn's deal is. He's from like the 1850s, I think. That's the year that he was in before he came into the present day when the chasm opened. So he'd been hunting down these people that had killed his sister, they had tortured him and hung him and stuff, but he's a Hellspawn. He's gonna survive no matter what if he uses his necroplasm powers and heals himself. So from the 1850s now to 2021, he's still trying to hunt down these people and just trying to do good in the world in his own unique way with his shotgun, his old Wild West clothes and everything. That story had art by Brett Booth, which was really detailed and amazing. I think the Gunslinger Spawn is going to be a really great series, and so is King Spawn. This is a really, really good first issue. Like I said, I think that a lot of those backup stories weren't really my favorite because I wasn't familiar with the characters, but there was some good art in those, and then there was absolutely phenomenal writing and art in the main story. I would easily give that main story a 10 out of 10, but because of those backup stories and just my lack of knowledge of the Spawn's universe, I'm going to give this issue for my final rating an 8 out of 10. Like I said, if I had been more familiar with those characters, it probably would have been a lot better, because we did have some really good art on this issue, and some good dialogue and writing by Todd McFarlane and Sean Lewis. I also realized halfway through the video that I was still wearing this name tag. My cousin had this like SpongeBob themed birthday party that I went to, so my family made like these knockoff names, right? So I'm Patrick Petrato Star. So yeah, whatever, I forgot to take it off. I would have liked not to have been wearing that, but that's the explanation for that weird name tag. So if you got some good information from this video, or if you enjoyed it at all, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That's the big red button, which is sitting right below this video. You can also hit the notification bell, which is sitting right next to it. You'll be notified every single time I post a new video if you don't want to miss any. So that's everything from me for today. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye, guys.